There's been obviously a lot in the news about multiple Cuomo brothers, and most recently, Chris Cuomo, who was CNN's primetime host, but CNN fired him. What we know about his firing is, Chris Cuomo had come out months ago and said he kind of advised his brother, Governor Cuomo, or ex-Governor Cuomo, um, as he was, you know, uh, the recipient of several sexual harassment claims. But he kind of left it at that. I advised him. He was my brother, blah, 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 blah. And last week, Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, she released quite a few text messages, emails showing that Chris Cuomo was doing far more than advising Governor Cuomo. He was actively, basically, an unofficial member of his staff, trying to do damage control, trying to dig up dirt, at least on one of the women who was making sexual harassment accusations against Governor Cuomo. In addition, was trying to use his perch as a journalist to speak with other journalists to basically figure out when the next shoe was going to drop, when stories were coming out negative about Governor Cuomo, if there were any other women that might be coming out. So CNN fired Governor Cuomo for that. So I'm not here to minimize Chris Cuomo's cooperation and basically working as a journalist while also working as a political operative. That seems to be a fireable offense to me. But in all the discussion about Chris Cuomo's firing, to me, what's been lost, and you were at the forefront, is indirectly, or maybe we don't even know directly, Chris Cuomo also helped whitewash Governor Cuomo, sending thousands and thousands of old senior citizens back to nursing homes with COVID, who died, unfortunately, including your uncle, who passed away. It came out during all of this that Governor Cuomo, his staff, had covered up the actual death count at nursing homes. It came out that Governor Cuomo had basically called you and threatened you not to be public against him as far as these nursing home deaths. I don't know. I don't have proof of this, but I would have to assume that if Chris Cuomo is so close with his governor brother that he was talking to his staff in response to the sexual harassment claims against his brother, perhaps he might have been communicating with them about the nursing homes too. So I wanted to start with, what are your initial thoughts on Chris Cuomo's firing? And is it kind of bittersweet in a way that, yes, he's being fired related to his inappropriate breach of journalistic ethics, but his firing has nothing to do with essentially him helping his brother whitewash the nursing home deaths?
Yeah, I think those are very good questions, and I don't think we're done in holding Andrew Cuomo, Chris Cuomo fully accountable for their actions in whitewashing, in stonewalling, covering up nursing home deaths, as well as committing, in my opinion, a criminal public fraud. You can't go out and promote false data that can lead to even more deaths with the kind of platform that he had, and that's what him and his brother ended up doing. That took away our ability to legislate. If we had that information real time, we would have went in a different direction, not allow him to write these deadly policies at the peak of the pandemic, like handing out a near blanket immunity for nursing home operators, which disincentivize people from investing more into nursing homes. But justice is justice. The survivors, the woman, they deserve every ounce of this justice. They stepped up, and they didn't have to. They could have been hurt, and they continue to be targeted as we speak by the Cuomo syndicate, and they're still continuing to speak up. So they deserve all of this, and I think it is a process, because it is somewhat more, I think, direct and efficient to hold individual misdeeds, like misconducts, as like sexual harassment, when it involves just him and another person. When it involves the nursing home scandal, we're talking about an ecosystem of corruption that needs a thorough reckoning to get this right. And there's a lot of decisions, a lot of individuals and powerful groups that may be dragged down if everything comes to light, including Chris Cuomo, including possibly CNN. Like, who else got VIP COVID test? Now, I'm pretty confident it wasn't just Chris Cuomo that got the VIP COVID test. And what was that VIP COVID test worth at the peak of the pandemic last year when none of us had access to these tests? And what kind of political favors did that curry for Andrew Cuomo? I mean, those are the type of questions that we need to go back and connect the dots on. But it will take some time to do that.
Right. And Colin, if you could put this up, I just want to remind the audience, if they kind of escaped them, this is from the New York Times. Cuomo aides rewrote nursing home report to hide higher death toll. The intervention was the earliest action yet known in an effort by Governor Cuomo that concealed how many nursing home residents died in the pandemic. Top aides to Governor Cuomo were alarmed. A report written by state health officials had just landed, and it included accounts of how many nursing home residents in New York had died in the pandemic. The number, more than 9,000 by that point in June, was not public, and the governor's most senior aides wanted to keep it that way. They rewrote the report to take it out, according to interviews and documents reviewed by the New York Times. So like you said, I mean, this is a criminal act, concealing or doctoring data. I've seen it in other instances in the Flint water crisis in terms of water testing being manipulated by the former governor's administration. But in this case, Chris Cuomo, again, we don't know. I mean, it all should be investigated. But again, it seems that his modus operandi was family first, as he put it. So he was, his role as an anchor came second. I'm going to be texting my governor's staff about, trying to get them on message or help craft a message in response to these sexual harassment claims. But it should be noted, while Chris Cuomo was having his brother on throughout the pandemic on CNN, it became must-see TV, them kind of palling around, there were public criticisms and politicians like you making noise about his nursing home policies. So it's not like Chris Cuomo, as he was having his brother on, was unaware of the questions, complaints, cries for help going on. What do you think? I mean, you can't get in his head, but what do you think, looking back now, seeing how involved he was with his brother in damage control, in kind of crisis PR about the sexual harassment claims? Do you think it's possible that he was in communications with his brother or anyone in his brother's staff in relation to information they were putting out about the nursing homes?
I mean, I don't want to speculate. I think that's why we need an investigation. But the facts are that, yes, I was even on CNN around that time on a different show talking about the nursing homes. So right before his show. So he definitely knew this was happening underground and it was problematic. He probably also knew that his brother was in the middle of chasing down a $5.1 million book deal that relied on false data to get that much amount, because there was a race to the top among publishers to get to that amount, which is, by the way, Jordan, which is a ridiculous amount of money. This $5.1 million, for the public to understand, that is the kind of money that this would be the #1 political book of all time to get that kind of a contract. And secondly, he was clearly protecting his donor class, Andrew Cuomo, with some of these policies that was designed to shield the profits of hospitals and nursing homes at the peak of the pandemic. It wasn't designed around families and protecting residents and patients. We actually took away their rights to recourse, the governor did, at the peak of the pandemic. And in order to protect those two things, the donors and his book deal, the data had to reflect that it wasn't that bad. He had to go out to the CNN, to go out to the public and reassure that, hey, we're number 47 out of 50 in nursing home deaths. That's what he was saying. When our report, independent report, with limited information, showed that we're number 2 or number 1 behind New Jersey. And that's, instead of telling that truth, which would have pushed our families to make better decisions, because there were people that went in with just injuries to recuperate and got COVID and passed away. families are coming up now. If I had known the truth, I would have taken my father out of the nursing home, and he would have spent recovering at home. And he took away our ability to do that. And for that, he needs to be held accountable, and his brother, if he played a role.